On today's episode of Poor Financial Decisions. So, if it wasn't obvious enough already, in today's video we're going to be installing this intake. I got a heck of a deal on Facebook Marketplace for this thing. This is a 1966 427 Sidewinder intake, factory installed on 66 Shelby Cobras with 427s in them. And also was an over-the-counter part from some Ford dealerships. I read the book Ford FE Intake Comparo by Jay Brown. I can do a whole video on that if you guys want me to. Absolute fantastic book. Anyway, he highly rated this, and dual plane, weighs 25 pounds, one of the largest runner volume and plenum volume of any Ford FE intake. I'm taking you guys through this step by step of installing a Ford FE intake. To start with, we're going to start taking stuff apart. Let's get to it. And first step, drain the water out of the radiator, because on an FE the coolant runs in between the intake. Alright, pro tech tip of the day: if you're going to be draining your radiator, be smart to unscrew your radiator cap. Might help just a little bit. Well, my radiator cap was doing nothing. If you're going to switch out your intake manifold, you're going to need a couple parts. First, you're going to need your intake manifold that you're switching out. And the most important part you're going to need when changing out your intake manifold is your intake manifold gaskets. These are super duper important. I have the Felpro kind here. They have locking tabs. They're exactly what I have on there already, and they so far work really well. They have the cork China wall gaskets included. I'm not going to be using those this time. I'm going to be using RTV. I also bought a new thermostat because I'm already going to be in there, and a new thermostat is never a bad idea. I also have two carb gaskets. These are also the next most important ones beside your intake manifold gaskets. One for there, carb spacer, and then on top for the carb and the spacer. These are just known to cause vacuum leaks, and it's very good to get new ones. And then I also got valve cover gaskets because I've taken my valve covers on and off so many times for my valve train issues I've had. Make sure you guys check out Black Lab Garage. He helped me out a lot with my valve train issues. I bought some cork valve cover gaskets. So far they've worked very well on other ones, but they're taking some abuse from all the times taking the valve covers off, so I got some new ones to start fresh with that. And because the thermostat is contained in the intake manifold, which is right here, you need a thermostat housing gasket, which is what this is right here. It has a sticky back, which is very, very cool. I don't remember where I even got this, but maybe my local auto parts store. One thing that's always a good idea is to take your intake manifold gasket and compare it to the ports on your intake. So we got our holes here lined up. So this is like I said, it's a medium riser intake, and it's going to be going on some low riser heads. Now it sounds like a bad port mismatch, but from the factory, our Cobra Jet heads on 428 Cobra Jets were low riser heads, and the 428 Cobra Jet intake manifold was a medium riser manifold. That just has to do with how tall the ports were, or how tall the floor of the ports were. So on a low riser, it's pretty low, be that down here more so, but on a medium riser, as you can see, we have quite a bit of space up here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a die grinder and I'm going to knock just a little bit of the junk off of in here. Anything that looks real bad that was just a casting, whatever. Real quick here, we'll compare on this side as well. Quick disclosure, this is the first time I've ever done anything like this, so I really don't know what I'm doing. But I got a carbide bit on a die grinder here, and I'm going to put on some safety glasses. It sounds like a good idea. Safety first, amigos. How hard could it be? How badly could I possibly mess it up? Alright, I'm going to say that's more than good enough. Next, I'm going to take the closest thing I can find to a straight edge, and we're going to observe how flat the ports are. Alright, closest thing I could find is this drywall T-square. It seemed it was very handy, so we're going to just see what we can see here. Well, it appears that side is very flat, if this is even doing anything at all. I just figured it's just one way to just double check things. I don't know what I'm doing, but it seems like something that you could do. Another thing I want to point out here on this engine, some people don't understand what this is here for, but this is just to bypass where the thermostat is, so while the engine is still cold, it can still pump water. Now I'm going to hit this with a little bit of simple green, and I'll come back to you guys and see what it looks like. It probably looks the same on camera, but in person, that simple green did a lot better than I thought it was going to do. Originally I was going to try and get the paint off of it, but this thing was just really dirty, so just wipe it now. Simple green did a lot for it. So next thing we're going to do is clean some of the old gasket residue off of this here intake ports. And to clean it up a little bit, I have a razor blade and a little bit of used 320 grit sandpaper. It's very important you get a good clean surface on both the head and the manifold side, because you want that intake manifold gasket to seal. If it doesn't seal, you're going to have a vacuum leak, and your engine's just not going to run very healthy. So I got most of the big stuff scraped off there, and I'm going to lightly hit this with sandpaper. One of the most important parts when you're dealing with any part of an engine or building it or changing anything is to make sure you keep everything as clean as you possibly can. You don't want to get any dirt in your engine. The most distinguishing characteristic of the Sidewinder intake is the fact that the carburetor is set off to the driver's side bank of cylinders more so. You can see pretty good with this camera angle. No one knows really why though. 427 Sidewinder intake is all ready to go. Now it's time to move back to getting the old cast iron intake off. I already removed the lower radiator hose, so now we're going to remove the top radiator hose. With that out of the way, I'm going to undo everything that connects the distributor to the intake manifold so we can pull the distributor out. One thing that's super important when you're pulling a distributor is to make sure that you know exactly where your rotor was pointing, so when you put it back in, it'll be at the correct timing. So as you can see, here is where the rotor is pointing right now. Said headers weren't handy for something. I got my distributor cap and 4 of the spark plug wires hanging right here, and that way the top is clear of any sort of spark plug wires. I just unplugged those 4 on that side. Alright guys, got the intake all finished up here, looking pretty awesome. I'm waiting for the RTV to set up and then we'll run it, but overall I'm very happy with how it came out. I feel like I did a decent job. One of the most important things to work on an engine is make sure you keep everything clean and just take your time when you're doing stuff like this. It pays off to just take your time. Read a book, buy a book about what you're trying to do, but I guarantee you it exists. Or maybe try and find a YouTube video, but it's just handy to know things because you might do something wrong. But ultimately, you're only going to learn from experience. So anyway guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I was hoping to get a little more footage, but kind of got carried away in some spots and forgot to take a video of it. But alright, now for a quick speed run for the recent things we've done to the Torino. Wildwood adjustable proportioning valve, new wheel studs and a wheel spacer in the back so the calipers don't rub the rim, new tail lights, and I painted the buckets white inside so they reflect more. Used the Comet and sponge on half of the rear trunk lid. You can tell the difference, but it still looks really bad. Cleaned most of the butyl out of the window ledge so we can install the new window. Got its new turn signal installed. This fender and bumper are really messed up on this side, but it does work. Foot air conditioner, new headlights installed, as well as I painted the buckets in the back, and then I painted all inside here as well, so it will not rust as much. And there's the new floor pan to fix the floors. And there's going to be our subframe connector. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on It'll Run.